We're very, very happy to have you here with us this evening. Thank you so much for making time to do another Corny and Barrow Zoom tasting. We already did one back in the summer, and this is one which is going to focus specifically on the 2019 vintage, but also looking at 3 2017 wines. So two vintages to kind of talk about, and specifically 17s to taste, and then 19s maybe to have a chat about. Just as a very brief introduction, Edouard Francois Labet's son has just completed his 3rd vintage at the twin domains of Château de la Tour and the Clos Vougeot and Domaine Pierre Labet, based in Beaune. Edouard is very much involved in all areas of the domains, and is as at home in the vineyards as he is coming to our tastings in London when COVID permits, or otherwise doing things online as we are tonight. So the 2 domains, I'll leave it to Edouard to talk about the domains in detail. We were just trying to work out how long we've been working together. I think Corny and Barrow and the domains go back about 15 years. So I mean, it's a pretty good track record, and we're delighted to be welcoming the next generation in Edouard's shoes. So without further ado, I will pass you across. Edouard.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. I was just going to start to, because today is my birthday, so I was going to have a
happy
toast.
Birthday as well.
A toast with all of you, because I couldn't have expected more than celebrate with my dear friends from England and Scotland, as I see in the chat, not missing anyone. But yeah, no, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, and we're missing you very much here in Burgundy, and we also miss not to be in England and Scotland this year, but we'll take the most out of it after everything is is settled and so on. But yeah, I mean, as we did last time, I thought I was going to start with a short presentation of the 2 estates, so that you can have a big picture of what we do and the different appellations that we have, etc., etc. So please, as we said, Guy, if anyone has a question, please feel free to interrupt. As I'd rather make it a bit interactive and fun rather than me talking. So yeah, I'm gonna share with you this short presentation that I did. Here we go.
If I might just add on that, if people want to put any questions into the chat, I'll keep a close eye on them, and then we can relay them to Edouard and everything. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Please jump in. So yeah, 15 years old relationship with our good friends from Corny and Barrow. So to tell you a bit more about the estates. So as some of you might know, my family owns 2 family estates. One is called Château de la Tour, located inside the Clos Vougeot, and only with the Clos Vougeot Grand Cru appellation. And another estate called Pierre Labet. So Pierre Labet was my grandfather that built on his estates 50, 60 years ago, and bought different vineyards in different locations all along the Côte de Beaune and Côte de Nuit. So all the winemaking is done in one single place in Château de la Tour for the 2 estates. So we work in organic viticulture since '92. First thing that I did when I came back to the estate was to start the certification process to be legally organic, because I thought it was, claiming that you work in organic viticulture but without being certified doesn't mean anything to me. So I thought it would be just being transparent, just being true to yourself. I thought it would be the good next step to do for us. So we'll be certified for the next harvest in 21. We've also started in biodynamic viticulture since 2015. And if some of you are familiar with this, this is a notion that is, I do believe that is connected to some kind of mystery in a way, because there's no mathematics behind it. It's pure, how to say, belief, in practicals that respect the nature, that respect the moon calendar, the planets, etc., etc. And for us, it has been a big revolution, and I'm gonna talk a bit more about it later. So when it comes to our vinification, we do not use any more sulfites nor any entrants in our winemaking. We only work with indigenous yeasts, and I would say the DNA of the estates has been the whole bunch vinifications since my father started. I guess his first vintage was 84 when he started doing 100% whole bunch vinification. And you have to imagine that back then, you know, the weather was cold, was rainy. The whole bunch didn't really appeal to consumers and to winemakers. So back then, it was almost seen as a crazy person, you know. But for him, it was more an idea of producing the wines, the great wines that were made before the war. And this is how it all started. And for us now, you know, whole bunch is, as I said, you know, it's our DNA. So this is on the bottom right, our property, Château de la Tour, and on the bottom left, the famous Château du Clos Vougeot. Sorry, and this has been our property since the late 90s. So we are the largest owner with 6 hectares of vines among the 50 hectares of the Clos Vougeot, and you have to imagine that there's more than 80 different owners for the 50 hectares of Clos Vougeot. So meaning that some owners only have 1 or 2 rows of vines and produce not even 1 barrel a year, which is very, very tiny. And this is where the magic of Burgundy is, if I may say. So I'm gonna move on to Pierre Labet because this is what the tasting is about tonight. So historically, my grandfather's family used to work in the spirits industry. But as I said, 60 years ago, my grandfather started to develop his domain. And now the domain covers around 10 hectares in different climates, in Meursault, in Beaune, in Savigny-les-Beaunes, Chorey-les-Beaunes, and Gevrey-Chambertin. So this is to give you a bit of an understanding of what we do when it comes to our white and red appellation. So we have a Bourgogne Générique in white, in Chardonnay, and in Pinot Noir. We have different climate in Beaune, and we're going to taste tonight the Beaune Marconnet Blanc, Meursault Latillet, and very soon a new baby that is going to be our Beaune Premier Cru Couchoria in white, that is located just alongside our existing plots in the Beaune Premier Cru Couchoria, that in red that we're going to taste tonight as well. So this map was just for the ones that doesn't really picture the côte, the Beaune and Côte de Nuit. So Gevrey-Chambertin, so we have 3 different plots in Gevrey-Chambertin, 3 tiny plots of 0.2 hectares located on each side of the national road, what we call the national road. And just for you to understand, all the biggest and famous terroirs are located on the left side, so on the west side of the road. This is the side where the coast is, and where all the different differences of terroir, you know, are the most existing. Yeah, that makes sense. And this, I did this slide just to show you, to present a bit the 17 vintage before we go into the tasting, just to give you a bit of an idea of what we had to deal with. So you have to imagine that 17 was after 16, after 15, 14, 13, all those years were really complicated because we suffered from many damages. In 16, we lost 50% of the yield. Some people lost 100% in some plots because of the hail. So, and you have to understand that the vine has a kind of a memory and understands, you know, for instance, the pruning, you know, we work for the year to come, for the year and for the the years to come. So we have to think in advance, if I may say. And so all those disasters really impacted the vineyards, impacted the vines, and really had this impact on the years to come. So 17 was, you know, finally we could breathe again. It was back to normality. So we had some generous volumes, and also something that changed is that we had a very healthy environment. So no pressures from any disease, like odium, mildew. We had some good maturity because we picked quite early September, which means that it was like I don't know what to say, but probably a lazy harvest compared to the ones that we had the years before. And yeah, so speaking about the red in general, that gave us some wines that were, really Burgundy, what we like in Burgundy, really fresh, really precise, with a juicy, with cool fruits, soft tannins, with a sharp acidity. Because Burgundy is about balance, it's about for us, it's about drinking a glass and going into the next one. You see what I mean? Like you drink a glass and you want to pour another one because your palate accepts it, and because that gives you pleasure, as simple as that. And when it comes to the whites, I would say that the whites in 17 are super. They're really sublime. It's always tough to have a vintage where the red equals the white. There's always a preference for either the white or the reds. But I would say in 17 the whites are really popping. We had a very consistent, very consistent fruit, very sharp acidity, and you're gonna see in our whites what we like to produce is those kind of wines, really crispy, really the salinity that you get on the palate. This is what drives us when it comes to winemaking. And yeah, to conclude, I would say that I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but for us, the real challenge in the last few vintages, 17, 18, 19, 20, the real challenge is to get the perfect picking date, because in those warm vintages, you don't want to get into either not enough maturity or too much maturity. You don't want to, you just want to have the perfect balance. So that takes how to say, you need to be bold, because for instance 20, we saw many people starting picking very early because they were afraid of the COVID situation. We had lots of heat waves, not so much rain, so the grapes were starting to dry, and people didn't want to lose too much, so they started picking too early. We made the choice to wait because we were expecting rains that finally happened, and thanks to the rain, the last rain that we get 20 millimeters. The vineyards all of a sudden changed from, it was really mental, it was spectacular. So as I said, the picking date is key to make a good wine, to make great wines, and also you need to be bold. I would say that's my two advice, if I may say.
Edouard, I think I remember your father saying that exactly the opposite was the thing in 2013, where people were worried and just wanted to pick something to have a crop. And I remember him saying he's a big fan of the wines because you guys waited, and actually he thinks that a lot of people think 13 is a sort of nervous, quite light vintage, but actually people who waited made some really great wines.
Absolutely.
It just goes to show.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it will be very much shown in the wines that you're going to taste from the last vintages. From a producer to another. We are privileged to be the only one located inside the Clos Vougeot, because when it comes to harvest, we get to see everything that happens. But everything, we see who starts first to peak and who peak in last. And honestly, from a winemaker to another, they could be. I saw almost a month difference between two winemakers, just to give you an idea, Then, of course, you have different approach when it comes to viticulture, we don't have the same size, the same size of plots, etc., etc. But yeah, true. And plus, we work a lot with whole cluster, whole bunch. if you don't pick with a good maturity, you get the green, the harsh tannins that you don't want in your wine. For us, when it comes to harvest, of course, we do analysis before, like few days before what we think will be the start of the harvest. But what gives us the green light is really biting the skin of the grapes, biting the grape, biting the skin, biting the peps, the peps, yeah, and also biting the stem. The stem is for us a key element to decide whether or not to start. You know, it has to turn almost on the orange. You know, it has to be ripe in a way. So yeah, again, very cautious about that. Very, very, very important for us. So yeah, so that was pretty much, like, as I said, a short presentation, but I thought it was yeah, what are entrance. Yeah,
and also one other question: are you the only winery in Burgundy that is actually located inside a Grand Cru?
Sorry, I didn't hear you again.
Sorry, are you the only winery in Burgundy that is located within a Grand Cru?
That's good questions. That's a good one. I don't know, actually.
It sounds like a quiz question, man.
Yeah, don't think too hard. It's a nice
one.
No,
yeah, I will I will investigate while I'm tasting. Yeah, I guess I don't have the good term in English for intrant, because I get the question. Inputs. I was going to say inputs in our winemaking. So inputs is going to be like enzymes or yeast. What could it be? You know, all the inputs that you add during the winemaking to help the fermentation, you know, either to start or to move on or to finish, you know.
So everything is done naturally, basically. It's
exactly.
No additions. Yeah.
Absolutely, exactly. And everything is done naturally because of the strict philosophy that we have in the vineyards when it comes to the buds, you know, the amounts of buds we want to keep. So there's no green harvest, you know, there's no need for us to do green harvest because we control the yield at the really beginning. For us, it's a big step. And then when it comes to harvest, there's a big sorting that is done in order to get rid of all the rotten or the non-ripe grapes, and everything combined allows us to work the way we want, you know, without sulfites. So just for you to understand, the wines doesn't see any sulfites until the first racking that is done 18-20 months after when we put the wines in barrels. As simple as that. So so it means very cautious about hygiene, the environment, you know, healthy environments, both in the cuverie and in the cellar. Cellar, you know, we're very cautious. So yeah, that's a lot of works, but that's needed.
So that's great, Edouard. Thank you. I think maybe should we go on and start looking at the wines now? Should we start with the white?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I started.
Or we start with the reds, otherwise.
I like the reds because the acidity of the whites.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I like to start with the reds. Okay. So I started with the Beaune Premier Cru. Again, I like to start with the Côte de Beaune and then move on the Côte de Nuit. So I won't go into a very theoretical tasting. You know, I'd rather let people just, you know, because everyone has his own approach and sensitivity. But I'm going to speak a bit more about the Beaune Premier Cru Cuchoria. So there's always it's always very interesting to go. I do believe to go beyond your how to say, what you think is your knowledge. For instance, Cuchoria, you know, Cuchoria is a word. It has a sense, you know, in French. And Cuchoria means pretty much the sunset in Old French. And so here, I do believe that this lieu-dit, so this name, really reflects into the wine. You know, our plot is located in the southern part of Beaune, and it's facing south, so gets lots of sun exposure. And so this is why in those warm vintages, I guess you really do feel and sense the kind of the jamminess of what gives, you know, the Bonne Première Cruchoya. You know, it's very jammy. It has like, you know, lots of concentration, spiciness, and I do believe that's very much shown in the wine. And also something, you know, I was talking about the whole bunch, the whole cluster. It's something that you will find through all of our red wines. You know, this those aromas of mint, you know, mint, licorice notes, you know, that you get, and also the freshness, because the whole bunch brings the tension, brings the freshness, you know, and it brings the peps, you know, the peps to the wines. It brings the energy. That's what we believe. So yeah, here, I mean, yeah, it's pretty much as I said, you know, it's you can feel the crispy acidity, you know, but in the meantime, you feel like the kind of the velvet tannins, you feel the spiciness coming from as I said, the exposure of the vineyard. I do believe that you feel that energy, you know, the dark fruits, the spiciness. That's my understanding of this of the Bonne Première Cruchoya.
And do you, Edouard, I think it might be quite interesting just to explain a little bit about what whole bunch means, because it's something
absolutely, of course,
it's a very big thing in Burgundy. And I remember being with Alison, who's on here somewhere as well. And we, in 2000, and I think to taste the 2008 vintage, we decided we would ask all the producers in Burgundy when we went round what they were doing and what percentage of whole bunches they were using and why. And almost everywhere we went, we got a different answer as to what whole bunch was about. So I think it's a sort of it slightly mystifies people. After 20 years or more, it still mystifies me. So it'd be quite interesting just to say what you mean by whole bunch.
Yeah, of course. And everyone has his own recipe, so not everyone is going to tell you exactly what they do. So, but that's no, yeah. Whole bunch is so when we say whole bunch, so you have when it comes to harvest, you can either work your vinification by working in the stem, so you're gonna get rid of the stem and only keep the grapes to produce wine that are gonna be very silky, very round, very on the fruit. You know, that's going to give you wine that are very appealing, very seductive. The whole bunch. So when we work in whole bunch during the vinification, we keep the grapes and the stem. So obviously the stem, this is where you understand that the stem is bringing the vegetal, as you say, aromas, but not the harsh ones, not the one that are, as I said, on the mints, on the licorice notes. And so whole bunch, then it's all a matter of how much you're gonna put. So we like to do personally, we like to work in layers. You know, we like to do layers to have a bit of juice in our vats, but also to have a bit of differences, you know, to bring differences. So we're not going to work. So for instance, in the Bonne Première Cruchoya, we work around 80%, you know, from a year to another, 80% whole bunch, meaning that we still bring a bit of this stem, you know, to bring a bit of fruit. But for us, as we keep the yield quite low, we like to keep, you know, we have concentrated grapes. We like to bring the energy by hiding the stem, you know, during our winemaking. This is our understanding of it. And then, of course, we know our plots, we know our terroir, our soils, and we know what the vines is going to give us. And then, for instance, in the Clos Vougeot, we have 5.5 hectares. We work each plot separately, and then we adjust the percentage. So it's a bit of a bet because when you put all your grapes into the vat, there's no way back. But you know, throughout the years, you understand, and you know, the last 3-4 years has been quite similar when it comes to weather. So you understand what you did not well, what could be improved, and then you adjust.
Yeah, perfect.
I think for me, the whole bunch brings this really nice kind of exotic spice character to the wines. So it's sort of almost like a tea leaf, as you say, slightly minty. It really lifts the aromas. And it's interesting in the glass, it takes away a little bit of color as well. So you get a slightly paler color in the glass, which obviously is not an issue at all. But it brings a real freshness and a sense of lift to the wines, I think.
Yeah, it brings, I mean, for us, it's you know, we've made some trials, because you have to understand, you know, you have to understand what the wine would give this time, what it would give 50% whole bunch this time, 100%, you know. So I did some trials because I wanted to understand. You know, my father, he started doing it in the 80s, but I was like, you know, I do not much as you do when it comes to whole bunch. So let me try things. And he said, yeah, of course, let's do it. And what we understood from those experiences of the last few years is that, as I said, the D-stem wines are really approachable. You know, they're really seductive. You know, They're really charming, but they lack the energy. You know, they lack the structure that will make them, you know, grow up and really, I don't know, really, yeah, pop up in few years. That's our understanding of the differences between the two.
And actually, that's a very good point. Someone's just asked a very good question, which is, how do you find the the element that the stems brings, which is the spice, etc., and the freshness? How does that affect the aging of a wine?
A wine, I think that the wine vinified in whole bunch is gonna keep the acidity much longer. And in this way, it's gonna keep the wines for much longer. I do believe that the D-stem wines are gonna, you know, drop all of a sudden. They're not gonna get the energy as much and they're not gonna age as much. And also, you have to understand that we do different wines from Bourgogne, so Burgundy générique, to Village, to Premier Cru, to Grand Cru. There's different expectations behind the wines as well. And honestly, I do understand that sometimes, you know, for instance, our Bourgogne, you know, we could work in this time because we know that our Bourgogne générique is going to be drunk in probably the first 5 years, you know, when it's sold. So meaning, okay, let's do something like very on the fruit, very gourmand, you know, gourmandise, like what we like to say. But this is not our style, you know, as simple as that. And even for a Burgundy générique, we do need, for us, when we taste, we do need this energy that the whole bunch is bringing.
Good.
And
no,
yeah, Alison is absolutely right. I mean, the whole bunch is very much working with the Pinot Noir. That's absolutely right. It might not be the case for grapes that you might find in the south of France, where you get, you know, like the, you know, I don't know. It's just our understanding of first the Pinot Noir and the terroir. That's what.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I love the energy it gives the wine, and I think actually a wine that's balanced and energetic when it's young has just as good, if not a better, chance of aging. I think the days of people thinking wines need to be big and robust and dense in youth to age, particularly in Burgundy, I think those times have gone. The wines are more approachable younger, but I genuinely don't believe that it affects their ageability. I think quite the opposite to a degree. So
I agree with you. And honestly, you know, we're speaking about global warming, and we do very much live the global warming, you know, on a daily basis throughout the work in the vineyards, etc. And it's very sad because we don't know where it's going to lead us. But for now, when it comes to winemaking, the global warming is not that an issue for the moment, I say, because in the meantime, you have the good maturity, you have the concentration in the grapes, so you have like the appetite that the wine gives, you know, when it comes to fruit, but the whole bunch is gonna lead them, you know. So the wine is if I can say, is sexy in the early years, but it's gonna wait. It has the potential to wait. So that's very interesting in that sense.
Okay, good.
Which seems to be coming up. So do the hot summers, which seem to be coming, affect the whole bunch approach? Yes, I do believe. I mean, we hear more and more people coming back to the whole bunch winemaking, vinification. It has multiple advantages. First, the whole bunch can allow you to decrease the alcohol percentage of almost 1%. So imagine in a year like 20, when we started picking on the 27th of August with good alcohol degrees. But imagine if we had like 15 or 15 degrees or something. Adding some whole bunch allows you to decrease the alcohol volume, which is quite a big deal actually. And I do believe that in those ripe vintages, it only brings energy, it brings freshness to the wines. So yeah, there's a big trend of whole bunch right now in Burgundy, and I think we will see this trend, keep improving and increasing.
Brilliant. Well, should we try the Gevrey?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm trying to look at the questions in the meantime.
Well, there was a good question about what else you do in the winery in terms of punch overs or pump overs or punch downs.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So when it comes to the work in the cuvery during the harvest, so we taste on a daily basis throughout the fermentation process, and then we adjust the work that we do. I was telling you about those layers that we produce in our vat. This allows us to bring some juice in the vat and allows us to work more efficiently when it comes to pumping over and punch down. The trick in the warm vintages is not to go into over extraction. So being very careful about those two works. Personally, we do our punch down manually, so meaning that we go into the vat ourselves. It's very traditional, but for us, I always say, it's not for Instagram. It's just that it has a sense. It makes absolute sense, because when you're in the vat, you actually feel what's popping under your feet, and as you have a clear idea of what you want to extract, you can control and you can adjust. When you have those automatic punch down that goes into the vat, how can you control, what's beneath? There's no way. There's a button and you press and it's gonna go, that low. So for us, going into the vat is really a matter of perception and feeling, So, and then every year is different. So for instance, 20 for Gevrey, the Gevrey that we're drinking now, 20, we had only 1 week of maceration. To give you an idea, it's nothing. Just to extract the color and the tannins, only 1 week, because the grapes were so tiny, so concentrated. In years like I don't know, I mean, vintages that we used to pick in October, the maceration process could be for a month and even more, So it always depends, and we always adjust according to. But as I said, it's tasting, and then we move on.
Well, I mean, a great chef would never put a dish on the table without having tasted the sauce several times. So you've got to keep an eye on things.
You're right, absolutely. No, and we wash our feet before we go in the vat, obviously. And
that's good to know. There's one question about interesting question about sort of how do you know, at what point in the vintage do you sort of know when you've got a good vintage on your hands? I mean, it's a difficult one, I guess, because the growing season can be a real roller coaster. Sometimes things look like they're not going well, and then it comes back at the end. So
and then COVID pops up, and then you have to adjust. And so first things, the first big step is probably April for us. in April, this is where we get our big frost episodes that damage heavily the vignoble in Burgundy. So April, when we have those late frost, we're always very, very scared, So I would say after April, we start to breathe again. And then honestly, there's, for instance, 20, everything was going super well. Everything was beautiful, when we took like a week off, beginning of August, we're like, mid-July, beginning of August, we're like, okay, we expect to harvest late August, beginning of September. It was beautiful, honestly, the harvest, I've never seen grapes and the vineyards like this before. And then heat waves for 2-3 weeks, all of a sudden, the hydric stress, blockage, the maturity was
when
locked.
the vines are blocked.
Yeah, exactly, block. So even 3 weeks before, we're super, super excited, sorry. And it only needed 3 weeks to all of a sudden change everything, So I would say, flowering is a good insight. When it comes to flowering, then at least you can expect, because the elders used to say that 100 days after flowering is going to be harvest. And it's very true, actually. Flowering is a good insight. Yeah. And then it really depends, if you get like a very cold, rainy spring, depends on the weather during summertime. So yeah, it's always fingers crossed till the end. Yeah.
It's almost as if we have more than 4 seasons at the moment, because you sometimes get quite rainy weather in August, for example, and then September can be beautiful again, and
exactly,
it can really turn up and down the whole time. So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and you have to imagine that for the big hail frost episodes have a big impact on the years to come, because all the pruning that is done, we, as I told you a bit earlier, we think 1 year, 2 years in advance, because we know how we want to lead the vines. And when the hail hit the vines, it damages everything. And so all the pruning that was done like a few months before is just, it's done for nothing. So
that might be that might be a good opportunity to talk about the hail, or not the hail actually, but the frost that came in 19. And that obviously reduced the yields a lot in 19. But I mean, did that have any knock-on effect in 20, for example, or did?
Not really. In 20, there was 2 nights where we were actually quite scared of having those like big frosty nights. But fortunately, almost no one was hit by that. So so yeah, 20 was okay. 19 was, it looked like civil war in the vineyards, from above, from the sky, with the candles, with the lights, with the bushes, the fire bushes and stuff. That fire bushes, not really, but
the hay bales that people were setting, yeah,
exactly. It really looked like a war scene, to be honest. And I do believe that. So in the Côte de Nuit, we were not that much impacted by that. It was more like the south of the Côte de Beaune.
Yeah.
So fortunately for us, we haven't been impacted by the hail that much, by the frost that much. Sorry, in 19. But I think people start to be more, to protect themselves more and more, finding solutions. It's always scary, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Edouard, the Gevrey.
Yes.
Say a little bit about, so we have that dangerous of phrases on the label, which means something and nothing, depending who you are. Vieux vin, which is a big thing for you guys, and you take it very seriously. But legally, anyone can put that on a label, which is a real shame. But say a little bit about where the Gevrey comes from and the Vieux vin aspect.
Yes. So exactly as you said, you need to be very careful about the vieille vigne denomination, because as you said, it doesn't mean anything. It could be 10 years old vines, it could be anything. for us, when we put vieille vigne, it means that the vines is at least 60 years old average, at least. The Gevrey Chambertin is made of 3 different blocks, tiny blocks, that is located in different locations in Gevrey. One is called La Justice, so quite famous, Clos de la Justice. You have Les Crêts and La Jouise. So 3 different locations, and that brings lots of heterogeneity. I don't know. lots
of differences. Yeah,
lots of difference in wine. So we this is so I was telling you that we work blocks by blocks. For instance, at Château de la Tour, we work blocks by blocks. For the Gevrey, we just blend the 3 blocks together because there's 0.6 hectares total, so which is nothing. And the Gevrey is, I like to start with the reds from the Côte de Beaune and move on Côte de Nuit, because for me, Côte de Nuit is, that gives different red wines, you know, because of the soils, because of the terroir, you know, the history of the terroir, etc. Again, I guess here you feel again the whole bunch, you know, our DNA, the whole bunch, but it has different notes, you know. I have you know, dark currants, I have violets, I have a bit more earthy notes, you know, nuances. There's also I guess you feel the good salinity also on the palate, this, you know, the crispy salinity that you have, that is brought by the whole bunch. Yeah, this is in line with
darker berries and sort of more dark chocolates, and it's definitely a more robust and more sort of substantial, darker profiled wine.
Absolutely. And sometimes people wonder, because I always taste Bonne Premier Cru Crucharia and then move on to Gevrey Village, and people are like, but you're going from Premier Cru to Village. But to me, it makes sense, you know, because as I said, when you move on to Côte de Nuit, you get into the, as you know, the earthiness, the you know, the masculinity of the terroir. You know, I know it's tricky, but you know what I mean. Like when it comes to, you know, it's bodied, it's more bodied for me.
Yeah, muscularity. It's
more muscularity.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. Well, there are 2 very good examples, I think, of the different appellations. The Beaune, I think. Well, I mean, should we talk about relative aging potential, maybe? Because you know, there's probably not masses of difference in terms of, you know, how these wines are going to age, but I think the Beaune is showing very openly already, and is delicious right now. And the Gevrey is also pretty approachable for me, but I think has a long life ahead of it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tricky question for us, you know, like when should we open it? So I always say, you know, buy 6 bottles and you open one every 2 years, and then you'll find the solution, and you let me know, because I don't know. No, honestly, I would say that you know, I was speaking about the whole bunch, the fact that the wines are for us meant to be kept for some times, especially in the Grand Cru and the Premier Cru. But I do believe that our wines are more and more approachable because of the changes that we've made in the vinification, you know, in the winemaking process, you know. For me, really, and for us, you know, the no sulfites, no inputs during the winemaking has changed the aromatic palette from 180 degrees to 360 all of a sudden. You know, the wines are just much more lively, much more, you know, much more. So I would say that the village and the Bourgogne Générique, could be drank very easily, very early, and until probably 5 to 10 years. The Premier Cru, I would wait a bit for the Premier Cru Crucharia, just to, you know, to settle a bit, to gain a bit more weight. So I would wait 5 to 10 years. Again, that's a good window. That's a good window for me. And the Gevrey, you know, Gevrey is, I don't know, I really like it very, very fresh, very cool like this now. I would love to see what it gives in few more years. I don't know. Yeah, maybe 5 to 10 years as well. I would give him a bit of time. A bit of time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I could acquire any Premier Cru, I would choose Les Amoureux.
So Edouard, if you were given a Premier Cru for your birthday, which one would you hope it is? And you can't be a politician. You can't be a politician and say, oh, you know, no. Come on. We very lucky. I'm very lucky, but I was very amazed by Premier Cru, Les Amoureuses. From I know he's quite famous and well known, but from Christophe Roumier. And for me, Premier Cru, Les Amoureuses. You know, for me, as I told you, I like to think that all the names behind the appellation has a meaning and should reflect the wine in your glass. And Les Amoureuses to me, and especially the one that Christophe Roumier did, was for me, because donc Les Amoureuses is really close from where we have our winery in Clos Bougeot. It's 300 meters from here. And you have Clos Bougeot, you have Échezeaux, you have Musigny, you have Les Amoureuses, etc. But different wines, all of them, they're so different. And Les Amoureuses is very Chambol-like, very charming. It's very I don't know. It's just lovely, as the words say. Yeah. So, but I know
it's almost an honorary Grand Cru, though. So I think that's.
Yeah, I know. I'm cheating a bit. I'm cheating a bit, but yeah, it is.
No, good.
No, but.
Brilliant.
So. But maybe not the most exciting. I will think about another one and give you another answer later on. It was an easy choice.
Yeah, it's good to have Beaune on the map, I think, now, because I think Beaune, in terms of the topography and in terms of just how the vineyards fit together, is not the easiest appellation to get your mind around, I think. And because it's very close to the city of Beaune, I think there's a bit of an image problem there as well sometimes.
Yeah,
and so it's good to put it on the map in this way, I think.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. Beaune has suffered a lot from a bad reputation, of a land owned by growers, but I would say it's the best. It's just the link between north of Beaune and south. So south you will find Pommard, Volnay. Yeah. North you will find Savigny, Corton, etc. But Beaune is such a beautiful alternative. And now, honestly, I'm part of the ODG de Beaune, so the instance in charge of all the regulation anyway, and things are moving. And we want Beaune to be exactly as you said, not only the capital of Burgundy, but a place where people actually know the wines, enjoy the wines, and it's so close to the city, and no one knows. And there's so much diversity in Beaune when it comes to terroir. You could be very close to Savigny on the northern part, and you could be very close to Pommard on the southern part. It's so big. So I do believe that Beaune is gonna be. I do believe. I would really like Beaune to be, an appellation that pleases people for the good reason, And nowadays, honestly, growers, they work well. When you speak about a house like Drouin, or, they work well. They of course, they're growers, but they're also owners, and they're winemakers also. So, of course, it suffered from bad reputation, but it has so much potential, so much. Yeah.
I have a question about sort of the younger generation who's now coming through, and you as a representative of that kind of generation. It seems to me that there's a lot more sharing of knowledge and sharing of tasting, and a lot more willingness to be open about one's techniques and share ideas. Is that your perspective as well? And how do you think that will change Burgundy and the generation to come?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think people tend to more and more share, because I think there's, first, if you lie in a way to the consumer or anyone, they're gonna feel it. That's my understanding. That's my belief. And I think we quite we privileged person. First, I think we all know that we privileged. It could have been anyone, like anyone else, and we are only someone that will there's a legacy behind us, and we only a witness of this legacy. And honestly, I guess for the young generation, we just like to talk about what we do, about the techniques. We like to be transparent. We know also that the habits when it comes to drinking consumption, etc., has changed. I was working in the spirits industry before, and all the trends used to show that people drink less, but I think they're drinking better, and also they want to understand what's beyond. So of course we speak more, but I guess it's also because people ask more questions. They are coming to us same way we're coming to you, and that's important. And yeah, I don't see any reason why lying on what we do, because there's no point, and you're gonna get caught at some point. That's my understanding. So, but I think it's super exciting for everyone, for every people that are connected to the world of wine in a way, and also I think the COVID will change many things. Maybe our ways of traveling, all of those things. Also, we very much concerned about all the ecological issues that we're facing now. So when I speak about the certification process, it's not for us. It's not to put a stamp on the label. It's just being proud of what we do, and and of course share it with the maximum people possible. As simple as that.
I think we probably have to quite quickly move on to the white, actually. So should we?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
But that was a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I think you're completely right, and I think it's about everyone, and also I think everyone has more information now. There seems to be a more holistic view across wine, and I think everyone's communicating more. They were previously traveling more, so yeah, no, it's
instead of going 3 times in Asia, but maybe we'll go as we already do, but only one time, and we're gonna spend like a few weeks and travel, and I don't know, it's gonna change. And those tasting are pretty nice. For us, we're just so sad not to have you in Burgundy and not to be able to see you, that we find a way. It's not the perfect way, but at least it's.
But actually, it's a different reach as well. You come to London and you go to Edinburgh, and that's good. You see some people there, but actually, we're also reaching people who maybe can't get to either of those two places. So
absolutely. Yeah, of course. So Bonne Marconnet. Bonne Marconnet 17. So different location of Les Marconnais. Les Marconnais is located on the northern part of Beaune. And to speak a bit about what we do in the whites when it comes to winemaking, etc., we like to work in a very long press cycle of 4 to 5 hours. Again, to carefully extract, and not going into the harsh tannins, the peps anyway. So very taking our time in the whites to let them, very, subtle and gentle and smooth. And then we like to barrel straight away. So we get rid of the lees after 24 hours, and then we barrel the wine straight away. And then we kept them for a long time in aging. So the fermentation starts in barrels, and the alcoholic fermentation and malolactic fermentation. So, and then we're pretty lazy because we let the wine just work on their own. And if we have to do some batonnage, then we adjust. But it's very it's a very how to say, steady winemaking. Steady.
Yep.
Steady winemaking. Very easy. And we like our Chardonnay to be the Chardonnay for us is again in line with the Pinot Noir. It's all about precision. It's all about balance. We like to keep our whites very clean, very sharp. We like the acidity. We don't want to hand into, those white wines that are too exotic, too opulent. This is why we don't do much batonnage. Actually, we just let the wine steady.
I remember your father saying, making white wines is easy. You just focus on the acidity. When the acidity is right, then you pick, and makes it sound so easy.
Yeah, but this whole rivalry between the Côte d'Or and Côte d'Or. No, just kidding. I'm just joking, of course. No, but again, a very important part is the picking dates, and even more in the whites, and even more in the warm vintages. Fun fact, but we used to pick the whites before the reds, but in 20 we picked them after, because first they suffered less from the heat wave in the south part of in Meursault and in Beaune, and I don't know, it's just the maturity was not there yet. So again, picking and then working according to the maturity. But yeah, Beaune is I don't know if you feel it, but there's the chalky, the clean, the very dry, final. You have, it shows pretty much like what I say, what we like about the whites.
There's a lovely salty sort of grippiness, a very very precise finish.
Exactly, which, a bit biting yeah. on the palates. Yeah.
And a proper amount of citrus too, which I like, and I think it might be different for people at home, sort of having two reds then a white, but actually I think one thing that maybe we don't take as seriously in general about the whites from Burgundy is actually that they really develop in glass. I think if people drink whites cold en route to, and I'm sorry if I'm people who know this well, but if you drink whites cold and then go on to the reds, you can really miss a lot of the whites. I actually pulled these all out of my Eurocarve at the same temperature, and they drink brilliantly. And if you have the whites again towards the end of the meal, if you're going to have something with cheese at the end of a meal, I love going white, red, back onto white. My wife obviously just thinks I'm an alcoholic, but it's an absolutely wonderful way to do it. And there's a really good balance to doing that. So I often am asked about decanting in wine generally, and I decant a lot more white wine than I do red wine. And certainly with white Burgundy, I quite often decant clumsily to get air in and to open the wine up, because otherwise you have it before reds and you miss the development of the white. The reds develop in glass over a longer time. It's a different thing, but I
agree.
This is interesting because I had some of this before we started the tasting, and it was very citrus, and now it's got a more gourmand, to use your expression, a more generous palate. And I think people sometimes don't give white wines the time in glass that actually they deserve.
Just to open up and to very show. I do agree. I'm with you. I follow you on what you said. Going from, not feeling, I don't know, not bad, but just try. I like to drink the reds first in tastings, because I do believe that the acidity of the white is a bit killing my senses, in a way. And then when I move on the red, we like to do also some interesting pairing. Now I only eat cheese with white wine, to be honest, not red wine anymore. I do believe the match is perfect. But again, as you said, give him time. Likewise with the red, give him time to really open up, and the one will evolve. And also something that we didn't talk talk much, but the biodynamy is the wine is definitely a living thing. Sorry, it evolves. It has like up and downs, pretty much as the human body, and the same way the human body is gonna react to the full moon. For instance, you're gonna sleep maybe not as tight as you would. the sea also, the level of the sea, etc. The biodynamic is all about that. You know, it's all about understanding those mystic connections. And when it comes to tasting, as we get the chance to taste, not on a daily basis, but quite regularly, we very much see the difference sometimes from a tasting of the same one in two different occasions, you know. And honestly, it's mental. And sometimes we don't understand. We're like, how could this wine tasted so beautiful like a few days ago, and now it's, you know, it's gone. Now I find it very log, very, very tight, etc., etc. So now I always pay attention to my moon calendar to find an excuse if that's the case. But understand that the wine is also, you know, you see the atmospheric pressure outside. You see if there's clouds, you know, then the wine might be a bit tight. I don't want to find excuses, but I just trying to bring you inside that makes us understand that the wine is not always the same. You see what I mean? Like, and and in that sense, buy a few bottles and drink them at different occasions.
A few cases, Edouard. A few cases.
Yeah, a few cases. No, few cases.
But we vary, which is one of the reasons that we don't quote the critics, although we respect them greatly and that we realize they're useful to everyone. But is that we vary just as much as the wines do as well in terms of tasting. You know, you've had an argument and it's your, you know, 10th day away from home and you arrive at a winery and it's pissing down with rain and blah, blah, blah. You know, you are in a different mood from when the sun's out and it's the first visit you've had and everything's wonderful. So, you know, wine varies, we vary. It's not an exact science. It's not an exact science.
For sure. You know, there's always, I mean, there's many people that I met that told me, oh, you know, I started with Bordeaux, with wines for Bordeaux. I really like and now I'm moving on to Burgundy. I said, these are two different wines, you know, different approach, different wines. I mean, so, and there's also the opposite, you know, people that drank a lot of Burgundy and moving on to Bordeaux, etc. But there's a one for everyone. There's a one for every occasions. And then, as you said, you know, the mood is so important, you know. So I hope that you're gonna open our bottles when you're gonna be in a good mood, because that's how it should be. That's how.
Well, someone's just commented that they taste pretty good, and it's a leaf day, which I noticed as well, and I wasn't going to mention, but I think they're tasting brilliantly. So imagine what they'll be like on a flower day.
That tastes pretty good. But you know, like for instance, for the bottling, you know, we have you know, I was telling you about biodynamic, but biodynamic is at the core of everything we do, from pruning, from racking, from bottling, from at the end of the day, we can't quantify the results because it's not a mathematic, you know, calcul or whatever. But we so much convinced about that and about everything that happened when we started doing that you know, for us the future is in this direction, and push it even further, and so yeah, very exciting overall. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, look, Edouard, I think it's almost saying fruit day tomorrow. Yes, good point. Edouard, thank you so very much for doing this, and very, very happy birthday. Good Lord,
thank you.
Yes, we would not have inflicted ourselves upon you.